Hey, family, welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at 5. I'm back live at 5 on Thursday. I don't want you guys to think I'm like bipolar or something because one week I'm live, the next week it's a video recording, and then I'm back live again. But I'm back live. So, welcome, welcome. And you know what I'm gonna do? Share this on my timeline, right? Asking all of you to do the same thing as you come on, share this, share this. I'm really trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this whole broadcast situation because I've been told, and the numbers kind of seem to indicate that when I go live from my Facebook page, my personal page, everybody seems to be able to see it. If I do it from my public page, Facebook somehow kind of limits who can see what I'm saying. And so I don't know if that's because I'm not promoting and boosting. And you know, when I boost something, that means I pay Facebook money, and I'm just opposed to doing that. So maybe that's why, you know, if I put up a recorded video as opposed to coming live, recorded videos seem to be seen by fewer people. I don't know what's up with that, but listen, now that you guys are here, if you would be so kind to help me let people see this, share it on your timeline. Also, with my last broadcast, there was an issue. Folks were complaining, hey, Nick, folks were complaining about my volume. So can somebody just type to me in the comments and let me know if the volume is all good this time around, because I don't want to be yammering on if you can't hear me. That would kind of defeat the whole purpose, right? Hey Earl, hey David, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I I don't want to keep you guys too long because I know on the East Coast it's already 8 o'clock, right? And some of you guys are probably chomping at the bit to go play with your fireworks and celebrate the 4th of July. I hope for those of you that are with me on Facebook, you'll have an opportunity to check out on my timeline the reading of Frederick Douglass's speech from July 5th, 1852 by Danny Glover. Very powerful, powerful speech Frederick Douglass gave back in 1852, and it speaks clearly and succinctly to why the Warrior Queen won't be firing off any rockets red glare tonight. So for those of you who haven't seen it, check it out. Listen, I'm still waiting for one or two of you to let me know. David, I see you. Can you let me know if my volume is okay? Because I need to know before I go on and on and on if my volume is okay. Let me know. Share this on your timeline. Thank you for joining me. And I don't want to belabor this broadcast for you, but I wasn't a whole lot going on in the beginning of this week as I was preparing for what I wanted to share with you. And I thought, well, that's a good thing, because I think, a lot of times police shootings are cyclical. It feels like that to me. It's either feast or famine, right? There's 2 or 3 shootings that we hear about, and then it goes radio silent, and we don't hear much by way of, nobody got shot. And that's a good thing. But the other problem that I have is that, when they go radio silent, I think there's a tendency for us to forget about what might have just happened, like Ryan Twyman, right? Being shot and killed by LA County Sheriff deputies a week or 2 or 3 ago. I don't know how long ago it was now, but nonetheless, not a lot is being said. And, that's how police departments get down. We'll forget very soon. Certainly. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. Sounds great. Certainly the family of Ryan Twyman won't forget, haven't forgotten. But, we quickly do. And so, when they finally decide what it is they're going to do or not do with the deputies who executed that young man, we may or may not even hear about it, right? And so I've got a couple of updates for you, because I try to check back from time to time with stories that I've shared with you before, just to tell you what happened and where they are. And here we go. I'm on Facebook Live, so you you know what that means. That means my nose is running. I don't know what that situation is all about, but anyway, um, we're all family, right? So bear with me. Listen, in case you didn't get a chance to check out my podcast this week, thank you, David. If you didn't get a chance to check out my podcast this week, it dropped. It's on my Facebook timeline. For my YouTube subbies, you guys should be subscribing by now to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks on the podcast platform of your choice. I had spoken last week with regards to the young woman, Marsha Jones, who had been charged in the murder of her unborn child because she got in a fight with another female, Ebony Jemison. Ebony shot Marsha, and first they charged Ebony, then take that back. They didn't charge Ebony. Jury didn't indict her. So they charged Marsha with manslaughter because her child was shot and killed in a fight that they said had been long simmering. And so her attorney argued successfully, and charges were dropped against Marsha. So I talked about that on my podcast. So for those of you who haven't had a chance, I talk about that and some other stuff. I talked about that and some other stuff on my podcast. So subscribe. Tell a friend if you haven't already. And yeah, that's what you missed. Now, listen, over in Florida, remember there was an officer by the name of Jonathan Aledda who had he didn't kill, but he shot at a gentleman by the name of Charles Kinsey. Charles Kinzie was dealing with an autistic patient. You remember that video where he was spread out on the ground, arms and legs extended like Superman, and Jonathan Aledda shot him. And when Charles said, "Why did you shoot me?" Because he was trying to tell him, "Dude, everything is good. This is a patient. I'm just trying to calm him down. I want to calm you down." And then Jonathan Aledda shot him anyway. And so when Charles said, "Dude, why'd you shoot me?" he said, "I don't know." Well, he figured out eventually a reason for why he shot him. And nonetheless, he was tried for that and convicted. He got probation. North Miami former officer, it says. So that's encouraging because it sounds like he's no longer on the police department. I was wondering whether or not he was going to be able to keep his job. And so it seems like he hasn't, if the reporting is correct in that they refer to him as a former officer. He was found guilty in the shooting of Charles Kinsey, and he got probation. So they sentenced him on last week. He got probation, a year's probation at that. Really? Really, North Miami? Is that the best y'all could do? A year of probation? A year of probation, 100 hours of community service. And he was ordered to write an essay, you guys. He was ordered to write an essay on communication and weapons discharges. That was the penalty for shooting Charles Kinsey. Now, thank you, Jesus. Charles Kinsey didn't die, but I believe I've read somewhere that he's still suffering from the aftermath of having been shot. And, so Charles and anybody else, I always say, listen, get a good attorney, you guys, because the system does what it's supposed to do. And when officers misbehave and violate policy and violate law and they shoot you and you're lucky enough to live, you will be the beneficiary of whatever money they want to throw at you because they don't have a problem throwing money at you. So get a good attorney. Listen, and I'm not saying that, you need to be in this for the money, but certainly there should be some kind of a penalty beyond a slap on the wrist. Probation? Are you kidding me? And an essay? What? It's infuriating. It's insulting. And I don't see any end to it. So if they're going to do that kind of stuff, they being cities and departments and whatever else, then the very least you could do is get a little coin along the way, right? Because who knows what kind of problems Mr. Kinsey is going to have for the rest of his life as a result of having been shot, because Jonathan Aledda didn't know why he shot him. So that's that. There's the end to that. And then also over in Broward County, Florida, the two sheriff deputies who had been seen on video smashing the head of this 15-year-old kid whose name is Delucca Rolle. Remember, they were at a McDonald's or something. It was a whole bunch of kids there, and these officers showed up and decided to do, what they do, and got all uber aggressive with these kids. Well, Sheriff Gregory Tony, my good friend, brother man, Gregory Tony, he did suspend the officers without pay, pending an administrative investigation. Now, he has nothing to do with this, but the prosecutor did charge the officers. And so these two sheriff deputies from Broward County are facing battery for beating up this 15-year-old kid at this strip mall for falsifying documents. That means they lied, right? And we'll see what happens, because listen, if you're accused of lying as a police officer, that means you don't get to be the police officer, because now once you're a proven liar, you can never go to court and testify about anything under oath. So again, I'll see if the prosecutor is successful in finding these officers guilty on the charges of battery, misdemeanor battery, falsifying records, and then conspiracy, because it was 3 of them involved. And so the 2 main guys, it was a sergeant by the name of Gregory LaCerra and a deputy by the name of Christopher Krickovich. And so those 2 were charged with the battery, falsifying records, and conspiracy. And then there's a 3rd deputy by the name of Ralph Mackey, who was charged with falsifying records and conspiracy. Now, I think Mackey is still on duty, maybe in an administrative position right now. If found guilty, these guys could face a year in jail for the 1st-degree misdemeanor battery, and the conspiracy charges are 2nd-degree misdemeanors, and they are punishable by 60 days in jail. So again, assuming, these guys are police deputies, law enforcement, they've not been involved in any other criminal behavior, I expect that they will, if found guilty, be given the low end of the spectrum in terms of the sentencing. But having been found guilty, if they've been charged, but if they're found guilty, I would think that would be a disqualifier, and they shouldn't be able to be a deputy sheriff here, there, or anywhere else, right? You can't be the police if you're a demonstrated and proven liar. So I'll keep my ear to the ground and let you know what happens with that. Over in Newark, New Jersey, there's a video that shows a police officer by the name of Hector Ortiz, who goes into a vehicle pursuit of a suspect. Vehicle pursuit of a suspect that was supposedly stopped by another officer, and the female officer said she saw a gun in the guy's car under his leg or something. And so the guy takes off, and Hector and his partner see the car. So they go in pursuit of the car. And there's a video, it's on YouTube. You could probably just Google Officer Hector Ortiz and find it. I don't have the link to share with you right now. But anyway, when they go on pursuit, his partner, his name is Jovanny Creso, and he starts squealing like a pig. I mean, I should have said a pig because he's a cop, right? I'm thinking about that commercial with the little pig who rides in the car and he's sticking his head out the window, the one that screams wee, wee, wee all the way home. I think it's some kind of insurance commercial. But anyway, that's how this Jovanny Creso was squealing during this pursuit. Now, that in and of itself is kind of bad and insensitive, right? And I get that cops have gallows humor, and sometimes we laugh at things that aren't funny or shouldn't be funny, but he was having a good time. And the other thing that this Jovanny Creso was doing is he was hanging out the car firing shots. During the pursuit, he's shooting 3 different times at the driver of the car. And his partner, Hector Ortiz, is like, dude, get back in the car. What are you doing? Are you kidding me? And Creso is just hanging out the car, firing shots. And so he continued until he killed the driver. Yeah. He continued shooting until he killed 46-year-old Gregory C. Griffin, and injured the passenger, whose name is Andrew Dixon, 35, of Newark. And so now Officer Creso is facing the possibility of a lengthy prison sentence, it's reported, if he is convicted of aggravated manslaughter and other charges that he's facing. He's been suspended without pay since February. This is just now being made known, even though this happened way back in February. And, you know, the whole thing with him yelling and hooting and hollering as he was having, you know, like he was on a Ferris wheel ride at a carnival or something, just only further exasperated the situation, because someone lost their life. And of course, you know, they crafted a story because they had to, right, about why they were shooting, and they're trying to justify the use of deadly force in this incident because they said that, you know, the guy had a gun. Well, they couldn't see his gun because the windows were tinted. Now, I don't know if that's something that they figured out after the fact, because there had been an original attempt to stop the driver, and that original officer at some point said that she thought she saw a gun. And so that's why Creso is shooting out the window like a crazy man. Anyway, the video doesn't really jive with their version. And so at least back when this was reported, Creso was being held in custody. Now, I don't know if he's made bail and been able to get out, but he was held, of course, you know, in protective custody over in the Bergen County Jail. So I'll keep you posted on what happens with that as well. And then on to Phoenix PD. You know, I talked about Phoenix PD, or the state of Arizona. And Phoenix, I think more specifically, leads the nation in officer-involved shootings. And so there was another shooting, and this one happened back in January. And again, it's just now being made known because the father of a young man is suing the police department over in Phoenix. And so there was a young man whose last name is Harris. Let me see if I can, Jacob Harris. He was killed in January by the Phoenix Police Department. And so now that his father is suing, they have released some information with regards to the shooting. And what happens is Harris was in a car with some other people, and it was alleged that I believe they may have been involved in a robbery. This group of guys in a car were involved in a robbery. And, you know, when you do silly things, bad things can happen. So I don't condone, you know, getting involved in robberies by any stretch of the imagination. But nonetheless, what happened was when the officers finally encountered them, they threw what's called a flash grenade. And when one of the officers threw this flash grenade, it made the partner think that they were being shot at. And so the partner and others, however many other officers were on scene, also returned gunfire. And in that moment of them returning gunfire, this kid, Jacob Harris, he tries to get out of the car and run away. He tries to flee on foot. And when he opens the car to get out, he gets shot. And it's reported like within 3 seconds of him opening the door to get out. So I guess they say 3 seconds to say, did the officers even have a threat that they were facing, or did they just fire because they could? Well, it sounds like they fired because one of the officers threw a flash grenade and they thought that was the suspect shooting at them. So they started shooting. And this young man was hit in the liver, lung, and heart and was dead within an hour. And so his father is suing the police department and says that it's reported that the video footage differs greatly from what the officers reported as to why the shooting occurred in the first place. And so because this young man was shot and killed, his partners in crime, if you will, are charged with his murder, because Phoenix is one of the states that allows a felony murder charge if you are involved in the commission of a crime and one of your co-conspirators, if you will, gets killed in the commission of that crime, then they can charge you. And so these people that were with Jacob are being charged. And and one of them is a 14-year-old kid. There's a person by the name of Tripit Busani, and then there's a 14-year-old who was also charged with robbery, kidnapping, and I think murder. And I guess, what's kind of a big deal and problematic is that it's first-degree murder in Phoenix. And if you are convicted and found guilty of first-degree murder, you run the risk of a life sentence in prison. Life, and sometimes death, depending on, what they decide to do with you, and probably what kind of criminal history you have as well. So it's kind of harsh for a 14-year-old kid, wouldn't you say? A life sentence. That's why, for every choice there's a consequence, and we need to have conversations with our young people. We need to talk to our children and make sure that they understand that for every choice there's a consequence, and when you do bad things happen. So that's what's going on right now, and that's it. It's a wrap, you guys. That's all I have for you. It has been, like I said, a very uneventful week since we last met. One of the other things that I did want to share with you really quickly, because I was trying to decide if I wanted to talk to you about this or not. I'm just going to tell you real quick. My battle that I've been doing with Los Angeles Unified School District. Hey, Rochelle, I was supposed to go to trial on July 15th next week, and I have been up all night, gearing up, getting ready for this thing that I was going to do, because my attorney had made it clear to me in our strategy sessions over the last few days that he was going to wind me up and let me go. And I was ready to go. And then I found out this morning that the doggone case has been taken off calendar because the judge in my case has recused himself. I share this with you guys because I just want you to understand I have been fighting, or better yet, waiting to fight since 2014. That's when this foolishness started with LAUSD and me being racially harassed. And when I complained about being harassed and discriminated against, then I was retaliated against. And everybody in the school district who was part and parcel of that whole situation is now gone somehow or another. The superintendent, Michelle King, died earlier this year. The people that I refer to as the unholy trinity, the inspector general, Ken Bramlett, he was not renewed on his contract, but he did get the gift of, the homie hookup that they only get. And now he's over at Albuquerque, New Mexico as the inspector general. Frank Kabibi, the deputy inspector general, the one who was beating me over the head with my supervisor, Jorge Urijo, all of them are gone. Frank Kabibi was able to land over at Amtrak. And so he's a senior investigator over at Amtrak. And then Jorge just retired abruptly when he got 5 years on in May. So everybody who was involved is gone. And they keep dragging this thing out, and it's all good because my attorney deposed them. And so we have statements if they somehow vaporize between now and whenever we get back on calendar for court. But I am not going anywhere, you guys. I am not going anywhere. I am in it to win it. And I don't know if they are trying to wear me out or wear me down, but you won't succeed. Hear me when I tell you. So I just have to wait now for a new court date. And so that means that, I keep taunting them and teasing you. Hold on. And teasing you about the release of my saga, Black and Blue, the creation of a whistleblower. I tell you it's done. I was going to go in and just make a couple of amendments because I had some things that I wanted to add. It's on the shelf at Amazon, but I won't make it public because I don't want the other side to peep my hand. But I will add in that I had an opportunity about 2 weeks ago to meet with the people over at Amtrak. And so I know LAUSD follows my social media. Sarah Zamora, the principal analyst over there in the Inspector General's office. I don't know what she does as an analyst other than, monitor my social media. So Sarah can go back and report to the others if they haven't already heard that I met with the Quality Assurance senior director over at Internal Affairs for Amtrak. Because you guys know, I tell you all the time, I put pen to paper. I'm not going to go away into the good night quietly. And I shared with them some things that had been written by a local journalist here, Kyle Stokes, about all the shenanigans and the malfeasance that was going on at the Office of the Inspector General that they were involved in. And I was wondering if those agencies, Amtrak and the city council over in Albuquerque, New Mexico, did their due diligence, if they did a thorough, proper background check. And so I just asked Amtrak, and they flew out one of their attorneys and their senior director from Quality Assurance Internal Affairs to have a fireside chat with me. And so, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen because, you know, it's a personnel matter, and I knew that they wouldn't tell me what would happen. I didn't expect them to. I just needed them to holler at me. And so we did that. So I'll be adding that whole little bit to my book as well. Thought I was going to be able to add in what happened at my court case, but not so much because it's been continued. And so I just share this with you guys because, listen, I know that I am not the only one who has been through some stuff at work. I know there's somebody right now somewhere going through exactly what I went through, who's being harassed and retaliated against. And you know, like I know, no such thing as whistleblower protection. Sounds good on paper, but it doesn't really exist. And so if you decide to take on a bureaucracy like I decided to do, know that it's a marathon, you guys. It is not a sprint. I have been doing this since 2014. I was supposed to first go to trial last year in September. Case was continued to February of this year. And then we were getting ready to go to court again, and they switched judges on me, and case got continued to July. And now this judge decides at the 11th hour to recuse himself because he went to practice law at a firm where one of the LAUSD attorneys also worked back in the day. Even though my attorney said, dude, we're good with that. We're not worried about it. You know, we can still go forward. He recused himself. So now I got to get back on calendar and get before another judge. But I'm in it to win it. And for anybody else who's going through what I'm going through, hold on. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I think this system is doing what it was designed to do, which was try to wait me out and wear me down. And if, you know, God says the same, I will be here for however many more years they want to drag this on, because I am not wavering. I'm not wavering in my commitment to see this thing to the end. I'm not wavering in what it would take for them to make me happy. Because, you know, at the end of the day, what I told my attorney is after he gets his portion, I want to be able to never touch a steering wheel. So unless and until they're willing to settle with me like that, then we're going to go to court, and I'll see what a jury of my peers thinks about what went on. So I want to be encouraging to anyone else who's going through this, and I want to tell you to stay the course, and I'll keep you guys posted about you know, what happens when and if I do get a court date. So you guys enjoy your Thursday. Enjoy this Thursday, and we'll do this again next week. Till next time, you guys, be good, be safe.